Come join us at the 2024 Minnesota State Fair live from Carousel Park, presented by Mesh, Besher, and Spence. We'll be broadcasting live through Labor Day, including all day today. Come buy your favorite fan merch and learn about your shot to be the Mesh, Besher, and Spence Rube of the Day and win a prize pack. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the fighting city of Oakdale, Minnesota, and the founder and curator of Gopher Illustrated and GopherIllustrated.com. Learn more about him at Ryan Burns MN via the tweet machine. This is Bo Huntin' Burnsy, and they know him by name at Duke's in Oakdale. A round of applause for the Bo Hunter, Bo Huntin' Burnsy. The man with the plan on the fan. What's up, Bo Hunter?
How we doing?
How you been, brother?
I've been well. How have things been with you?
Good, thank you. Decade and a half of Gophers coverage for him, and we have some trivia to tie to that coming up a little later, so don't look at the question.
Oh, boy. Now you got me on the edge of my seat.
Did we make you smile?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what the Love Covenant is here to provide. Smiles for everybody. We serve you. You don't serve us. Max Brosmer, quarterback, a New Hampshire transfer. That's going to be our quarterback. PJ Flex here at 11 o'clock for the PJ Flex Show. Everybody come by, say Sky Umah to the head coach. He'll be here at 11 a.m. But Max Brosmer, for those who haven't heard of him or those who don't know much about him, your Bo Huntin' Burnsy with Gopher Illustrated is the young man ballyhooed.
He is ballyhooed. He comes from New Hampshire. You mentioned he comes from the FCS level where he was a Walter Payton Award finalist. Now, if you're not an elite college football mind, what does that mean? Means he was up for the FCS Heisman last year, someone that threw the ball a ton in the CAA out there, threw the ball over 420 times the last 2 years, and you look at your favorite Golden Gopher squad, well, they haven't thrown the ball more than 315 times in a very long time.
Wait, that's one of Nordo's trivia questions. Cross it out. Anyway, go ahead.
I shouldn't have looked at the
Brosmer.
But with Brosmer, the thing I'm going to be curious to see, and we'll hear PJ Fleck talk about it here on KFAN here in an hour, how much do they want to go for with the passing game? Because if you've watched a Gopher football game in the last few years since that magical 2019 run, you know they have to get better at throwing the football. And it's not a switch that you can turn on and off.
Right.
So the belief is, from what they've been talking about all fall camp, from what they've said throughout the offseason, they're going to let him throw the ball. Now, I'm not going to tell you this is going to be the 98 Rams out there.
Right.
But it's going to be hopefully 27 to 30 times a game, which for the University of Minnesota, that's throwing the football quite a bit.
Ain't no doubt. Now, with what you know from the returning players, those who were like in the covenant last year but didn't play for whatever the reason, redshirt terrorism, or the newbies with like the true freshmen who might be incredibly good. With the 2024 Golden Gophers football team, where do you know they absolutely will be good? And good morning.
Well, good morning. I would say up front, and that's what has me optimistic about this season, is you look at their offensive line, you have 4 or 5 potential starters that could rent a car at a pretty reasonable rate. And when you're 23, 24, 25 years old, you should be pretty good up front. They got Quinn Carroll at right guard, who is, I think, his more natural position.
Yeah.
Someone that I think you know, Dane Brugler. You've heard of him for the Athletics.
Yeah.
Does really good work with the NFL draft.
The Carroll cat, was that the Notre Dame guy by way of Edina?
Correct.
Right.
And that's where he's going to be sliding inside, I think, his more natural position. They're actually going to have one of the best left tackles in the Big Ten, if not the country, in Ariante Ursary, who's also in his third year of starting. Plus, they have St. Croix Falls stand-up, one of your favorite destinations along the St. Croix.
Love it.
Tyler Cooper is another one that Dane Brugler has as a top 20 potential interior offensive line prospect. So
Right.
if you have 3 guys at the University of Minnesota that could potentially be drafted next April, things are going to go well for you. And then defensive line-wise,
If there's a potential bowl, we're minus 13.5 already, but go ahead.
and that's where defensive line-wise, you're old there too. You returned 6 of the 8 guys from the defensive line rotation. You got one of the best pass rushers returning in college football, and Jod Joyner, who is an elite speed rusher. You got Shakopee's Devin Eastern returning for another year. You got Danny Strigoff from Orono in his 3rd significant year of playing college football here at Minnesota. So if things go really well for Minnesota, I can confidently say it's because they're good up front.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first I want to say sorry for your loss. Brevin Span Ford moving on from the team.
I still haven't recovered. St. Cloud Tech,
It's very emotional for you. So who is Brosmer throwing the ball to? Daniel Jackson, he's the top target a year ago. You can stop me if I pronounce this Lemecki?
Lemecki Brockington.
Absolutely, but he only had 5 catches last year.
I hear you.
Span Ford out the door. So is there now I didn't want to go full Mankato West Scarlet Rube on it, but I know there's this Jalen Smith, this freshman.
Yep.
But who's the next Max Williams? Who's the next Ko Kieft? Who's the next Brevin Span Ford? Who is Brosmer throwing to in 2024?
Well, I mean, that's one of the biggest questions with this entire offense is if PJ Fleck is going to let them air it out a little bit more, they're going to have to get a lot better production from their receiving core. One of the most unfortunate stats with that receiving core last year is they had as many contested catch wins as they did drops. That's going to be really tough to move the
That
football.
doesn't sound good?
No, it is
That'd
not.
be a negative stat?
Yes, and so you have Daniel Jackson returning, who was an all-Big Ten receiver a year ago, but the hope would be it's someone like Elijah Spencer, who had 3 touchdowns last year. It didn't go very well for him in his first year transferring from Charlotte. Could be Lemecki Brockington. Donald Driver's kid. Christian Driver.
Oh, wow.
Donald Driver's kid's here?
Yeah.
We got a Donald Driver dagger in the maroon and gold?
Yeah.
That's the bomb. No, it is.
Well, the hope would be he can catch some bombs because he is a very explosive young man that has certainly worked his way up through the depth chart. Transferred in from Penn State in the offseason.
Yeah.
They have expectations for him. And then in terms of Brevin Span Ford, Max Williams at tight end, the hope would be Jamison Gears, someone that has waited his turn for a very long time behind Brevin Span Ford. So between all of those names, they're going to need at least a couple of these guys to step up.
Well, so Daniel Jackson in himself, and you know, these would be arbitrary rankings, but can you give me in any way the type of ceiling that I would expect from Daniel Jackson? Certainly the number 1 target. I get that a year ago. I'm thinking Tyler Johnson. I'm thinking Rashad Bateman. And for a team, and Brosmer can help by getting these guys, finding them in space, getting those yards, racking up, giving them the opportunities. But what is a ceiling? Where are we at in terms of Daniel Jackson and maybe ultimately what we can expect from some of these weapons?
Yeah, Daniel Jackson, if you were drafting him in a fantasy football league, he'd go pretty high because he's going to get 12 to, I think, 15 targets a game.
Every game?
Every single game. That would be the hope because he is your number 1 bona fide playmaker through the air. Now, the thing that they're going to have to figure out is every opposing defensive coordinator knows that now.
Right.
He's not going to sneak up anybody in year 2 of being the guy. So the hope would be that he can take that next step. Now, where is he in terms of the pecking order? That's going to be something he has to determine because I think he's going to end up as one of the top 10 receivers at this university. Now, you think about some of the names over the years.
Oh, we got Red Zone Ron.
Yeah, have you vetted that out with Ron Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, he's in the top 10. Ron is certainly right within there, if not the top 5.
Neither one of them are Ernie Wheelwright, but I'm just glad that you vetted that out with Ron so we don't have to spend the rest of our day texting about it. But anyway, and good morning.
Ron, you're absolutely within the top 5. I know he's listening. So the question remains, how much of a ceiling can there be? I mean, we've seen him make some incredible catches. You think back to that Nebraska game to start the season last year. That toe tap in the back corner of the end zone
was beautiful.
I mean, he is an elite separator, someone that can go get the football, but he's going to need help around him. But I can assure you, offensive coordinator Greg Harbaugh and Max Brosmer, the quarterback, they're going to be featuring him early and often.
You didn't mention my Scarlet, though. So Jalen Smith, the Cato kid.
They like him quite a bit. I mean, there is a lot of optimism about him since he arrived on campus in June. I'd tell you, though, a redshirt season, very likely.
Jack Henderson, let's keep in the Jays here. He led the team in tackles a year ago. Big final year for him. Justin Wally, I believe it's his final season. I'm just thinking, post Tyler Nubin, best of luck with the Giants for him. Second round draft pick, except for week 1. We hope that the Purple get the W. But Henderson, Wally, you mentioned some defensive line depth and getting some of those guys. I think 2 or 3 of the top sack getters a year ago are back. You mentioned Strigo and Logan Reddit, etc. But what about on the back end with Wally and Henderson? How do we feel about that group?
I think I got some questions about them. I mean, to me, that's one of the things they have to figure out is who's your playmaker on the back end? Because Tyler Nubin masked a lot of things for you last year, made a lot of key interceptions, a lot of key turnovers, and that's why he leaves this institution as the leading interception getter in the program's history.
Wow.
Now he's no longer there. What are you going to do at safety? Is it going to be a rotation? Is the Esco kid, Coy Parrish, going to eventually earn his way into a lot of reps? And then a corner, you're very experienced there. I would argue between Justin Wally and their Bucknell transfer, Ethan Robinson, both of them have about 2,000 career defensive snaps. That's about as many snaps as you can find at the collegiate level.
Okay, can I just ask a quick question? With all due respect, I mean, don't take this the wrong way. As you know, you're not a fan. I mean, you're a journalist. Gopher Illustrated, GopherIllustrated.com. Please sign up for it. As I put on Twitter earlier, this is Salt to the Earth. He's the genuine article, and he works really hard at it, and it's inexpensive. Gopher Illustrated, GopherIllustrated.com. Right?
Yes, sir.
And it helps him when the team wins.
Yeah, for sure. Helps him when the team wins. Speaking of wins, I notice here the FanDuel. Oh no! First and foremost. So let me get this straight. 2 of the more hyped and ballyhooed potential game changers are from New Hampshire and Bucknell, which frequently are known as, one's known as a hockey powerhouse, the other occasionally gets sneaky in the NCAA basketball tournament. So yeah, I mean, is that true?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's cool. So, all right. Well, secondly, FanDuel has the win total for the Golden Gophers at 5.5.
That's up from 4.5.
It is?
Yeah, they opened at 4.5, which is close in the Big Ten.
Okay, so I mean, it's gambling has been known to ruin families at times, and I don't think you're a big gambling guy, but where's your lean? 5.5 over or under?
It's such a tough year. I mean, if you told me 4-8, okay. If you told me 8-4, I also don't disagree. It's come down to this.
That sounds like me previewing a Viking season. Double-edged sword. Everybody can be happy.
There's 8 games on the schedule to me that are between 40 and 60% of winning.
Yeah.
And you look at some of the games last year, they found a way to lose with the way that they imploded against Northwestern. They imploded against Illinois, but they found a way to beat Nebraska. To me, it comes down to, I think you know this about football, PA. Can you stop the run? They were the worst run defense in the Big Ten last year in conference play, and because of that, they were the worst third down defense.
Oh, yeah.
Was that shocking at all, by the way? Because this is a defense, the 2 years previous to that, where we're talking one of the lowest scoring defenses, i.e. the best scoring defenses in the Big Ten. And from a yardage standpoint, they still found ways to lose games, but stopping the run, was that a shocker a little bit at all? Was it personnel? Where was your head at on that?
I put it more on personnel. They were very thin at linebacker going in. They lost a couple guys to the portal prior to last season, and then their best linebacker didn't play until Halloween because of a fall camp injury that just couldn't find their way onto the field. When you're throwing out guys that are inexperienced in the Big Ten, you're going to get exposed, and they got exposed. So if they can't stop the run like they couldn't last year, then that 5.5 number is going to look pretty good.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned camp injury because this just popped in my head, and it's a 5,000% a topic for the Gophers this year. I got to meet Darius Taylor earlier this summer. He's awesome. And talking about his brother, talking about his upbringing, and I'm super pumped for Darius Taylor. Only plays, I think, in 5 or 6 games, had 1 carry against Nebraska. Then he averaged $160 and a score in those other 5. Let's go, Darius Taylor.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing murmurs of an injury. What's going on with my guy, DT?
Come on.
The last media practice we were at, he's running a route down the sidelines, stretches out for a football, comes up lame.
No.
And then he's got ice on the hamstring. We're going to see a week from today if he's able to go. But I think it's a better chance than some people do. I think he's going to practice here this week. I expect P.J. Fleck to say nothing of that's going to give – I'd say this. P.J. Fleck's not the most reliable narrator for injuries. He's going to tell you 2 hours ahead of time you're going to find out. But to your point, when Darius Taylor is on the field, he is a game changer. The question is going to be for this fall, how many carries can you get, and how many games can Darius Taylor play in? Because last year, I'd argue it was about overuse. Turns out when you give a running back 92 touches in 14 days, it's probably not going to go well for the young teenager.
No.
So this year they brought in 3 transfers trying to mitigate that. But for Darius,
isn't there another name? Can you hit me with that other name?
Marcus Major is someone from Oklahoma that they're pretty high on, but he's battled injury issues at Oklahoma.
Oh, come on.
If they can just get some health out of these tailbacks to go with that offensive line I was talking about, this should be an offense that is much improved.
Well, I mean, you have the New Hampshire guy, the Bucknell guy, Darius Taylor, and Daniel Jackson. It sounds like the team's MVP is Dr. David Olson.
I always love that one.
Broadway Clinic, go crazy. Now, I found a Golden Gophers football preview here, all right? And it was written by Lonnie Anderson at fulltimepackagehandling.biz.
Oh, boy.
And it's written here because you like the quarterback, right?
I do.
Okay, and you think the passing game has promise, right?
I do.
All right, well, Lonnie Anderson at fulltimepackagehandling.biz writes, Minnesota needs some players to step up in the passing attack and lists the passing game as the biggest weakness, or it risks the offense being one-dimensional. It starts with New Hampshire transfer quarterback Max Brosmer, who earned a solid 79.9 passing grade last year from this company, but is jumping to from the FCS to the Big Ten. While Daniel Jackson is a good number 1 receiver, the Golden Gophers still placed 109th in team receiving grade last season. Only 3 of Minnesota's pass catchers posted 100 receiving yards in 2023, and Jackson is the only one returning.
That's a very factual statement.
Okay, but he's kind of they're kind of taking your New Hampshire take deep at fulltimepackagehandling.biz.
Well, as much as it is about Max Brosmer, it's who's going to step up around him, because you lose 3-year top 5 pass catchers from a year ago. Chris Ottman-Bell leaves, Brevin Spanford, Corey Crooms. They need someone not named Daniel Jackson to step up, and that's where the hope would be. Maybe you introduce your running backs and tight ends into the passing game a little bit more. You know, I've written here in this month that I think Brosmer breaks Tanner Morgan's pass attempt record from 2019, but I also think that Darius Taylor catches more passes than any other Gopher running back in the Fleck era. That's where you just need to get the ball into the hands of your best playmakers. And if Darius Taylor, if you think is in that top tier, which I do, you have to feature him in the passing game. He's a former receiver at the high school level. He can catch the ball well. But to the point of that piece there, I'll be the one to tell you, the passing game has stunk for 3 years. It has. It hasn't been consistent. It hasn't nearly been explosive enough. And the hope would be that with Brosmer, you can keep yourself ahead of the sticks a little bit more. And as you know, PA, if you can be efficient on first and second down, that play sheet for your offensive coordinator becomes a lot longer on third down.
Boy, you're preaching right now with that maroon and gold stuff. Bo Hunting Burnsy, Ryan Burns, at Ryan Burns MN via Twitter. It's Gopher Illustrated and gopherillustrated.com. It's inexpensive. It provides second to none information. And the Bo Hunter's a nice guy. And they know his name at Duke's in Oakdale, all right? So pick up the tab, metaphorically speaking, for my man, Nordo.
Special teams-wise, I know that's been a subject of great ire and frustration.
It's a sore subject for me, or at least it has been.
But does it remain that way?
Well, I thought the kicker never missed.
Have you met Dragan Kesic?
No, but I mean, just reading up on him for a second, he sounds like a cross between Blair Walsh and Tom Dempsey with 2 full feet.
He is an incredible personality, and he's got a huge leg. I think he's going to.
He's been on our morning show a couple of times. I think he's played initials. Seems like a cool dude. Absolutely,
he is, and he's got a huge leg, and he was the Big Ten kicker of the year for a reason. Made some huge kicks.
See,
the hope would be though that
I wasn't thinking about kicking when I was asking you about the special team situation, Ryan.
Well, if you want to know about the return game, I don't know that I got a lot of good things to say. I'll say this: they changed special teams coordinators in the offseason.
Okay,
this is a return unit that in 12 regular season games last year lost 71 yards of field position on kickoff. Kickoff return.
Yeah, there's never been a New Hampshire
minus
quarterback.
71?
There's never been a New Hampshire quarterback to play in the National Football League. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, when you have your primary kickoff returner in these regular season games, it just didn't go well. They haven't had a kickoff return touchdown since 2017.
Come on.
They haven't had a punt return touchdown.
Who was that, Myrick?
That was Rodney Smith against Nebraska.
Rodney Smith, yeah.
Damn it, that was one of my trivia questions for the last segment.
I'm killing it. That's fine. And then we have Demetrius Douglas against Wisconsin in that game in 2018. It's been a long time. They need to get more from their return game. Why is Iowa so good every year? Because their return game and their special teams gives them the edge when they have somehow a more anemic offense than what has been put on the field in other places.
Well, Iowa's so good because they never did the full wave. And finally, they got caught for it in a border battle.
Well, I wonder if they know what an invalid signal is yet down there in Iowa City. We'll find out at the end of next month.
The Minnesota Vikings drafted a player from New Hampshire with the 99th pick in 1961 named Paul Lindquist. He never played a game. This is Ryan Burns, Bo Hunt and Burnsy, 9 to noon, and the schedule is quite compelling. The schedule is quite compelling, and eventually want to get into that. The both divisions of the Big Ten, like just overall, who's the best team in the Big Ten and why?
There are two teams in my top tier, and they are Ohio State and Oregon.
Right.
They have two.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you have a quarterback in Dylan Gabriel.
Well, he's the Heisman favorite right now.
We got to get used to hearing that. Two of the best teams are Ohio State and Oregon. Weird.
Yeah, it's a strange time. It's going to be a weird at least transition year to remember that Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, and are all Big Ten teams.
Quite honestly, the Washington Husky, Rutgers Scarlet Knights rivalry, I mean, it might be underrated. Give it a chance, okay?
Well, I think we got to get you out when the Gophers play Washington out in Seattle. We got to get you to do some sailgating, is what it's called.
If you can call me from the dispensary.
Yeah, exactly. But it is going to be. I mean, for me, I'd much rather go to L.A. and go see a game in the Rose Bowl than have to take another trip to Champaign or West Lafayette.
I understand.
But I mean, it's going to be at least a novelty here in the first year or two.
Much more with the Bow Hunter when 9 to noon continues. From the great Minnesota get-together, ladies and gentlemen, we are 30 minutes from P.J. Fleck being here for the P.J. Fleck Show, courtesy of FM 100.3. The kids call it KFAN.
Celebrate 30 years of Weezer's iconic Blue album when they take the stage at XL Energy Center on Wednesday, September 4th. Don't miss out as they play all of the hits, including the Blue album in full with special guests The Flaming Lips and Dinosaur Jr. Tickets are still available. Head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar for more info.
Max Fuller of Howlin' with the Homies. Hey, Max, back at KFAN, can you give fan faithful here at the State Fair your very, very, very best hootie who?
Let's go, Minnesota State Fair!
Yeah, you're the best, Max. That's Maxwell Fuller. Don't leave home without him. Nordo, 9 to noon producer over there. Bo Hunt and Burnsy. Ryan Burns at Ryan Burns MN via Twitter. Between us, and I'm Paul Allen. Coming up 28 minutes from now, it is the PJ Fleck Show on FM 100.3 KFAN. Thus, Nordo put in Bo Hunt and Burnsy as the preview or the pre-show, the pregame to the game, the PJ Fleck Show, which is going to be super cool. The Gophers, as we've said repeatedly, open next week. This day next week, 7 days from now. All right, 3-2. The Golden Gophers open next Thursday at 7 o'clock at Huntington Bank Stadium against the North Carolina Tar Heels. Is that an expected win? Are they going to be underdogs? UNC, Sans, Drake May, Hakeem Nicks, and Lawrence Taylor. Those are significant omissions. Laken Tomlinson, he was there, but then he transferred to Duke. So they've gone through a lot. What do you think of next week's game?
You're an elite college football mind with a Hakeem Nicks pull out of that whole thing.
Could have been Ronald Curry.
So the Gophers are a 2.5-point home favorite. So essentially you're somewhere on a 50-50, 60, or whatever you want to have it be.
You're saying Mac Brown's team on the money line.
I'm saying that this is going to be one of those toss-up games I'm talking about, and that's where North Carolina goes from being the Drake May show to now it's going to be a star running back for them by the name of Omarion Hampton, a preseason All-American, and as we talked about last segment, this is a Gopher run defense that struggled to stop the run. Now, the interesting part about it is, Nordo, what if I told you that same run defense against Omarion Hampton and their other tailback allowed only 71 yards on 24 carries last year? So what?
I would ask you what Drake May did.
He went for 450 total yards.
But didn't Drake run for some yards too?
He did.
See, we left that out of the conversation, didn't we?
Yeah. So the question is, that bad run defense last year was still able to stop that run, or Omarion Hampton, and what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So the question is, without Drake May, they're probably going to be starting a cat by the name of Max Johnson, transfers in, has started some SEC games.
Wait, that's Brad's son.
Is it?
Yeah, that's Brad Johnson's son, I think.
It might be.
It might be, yeah. If he came from like Texas A&M or something.
He did.
It's Brad Johnson's son.
Because he's had to bounce around to a couple of different
Elite Gopher Illustrated Mind should. I'm really glad you knew that because Brad played here, man. It's a nice little tie.
I remember Brad Johnson back in the late 90s.
Well, you better get to know Max Johnson before he gets here and runs roughshod on your publication.
Well, we're going to find out because that's going to be the thing is can Max Johnson do it? I mean,
we got to book Brad next week.
Well, which one of these transfer quarterbacks can do it? Is it the Max from Minnesota and Max Brosmer, or is it going to be Max Johnson, who has played in some pretty significant games at LSU and Texas A&M?
No doubt. I mean, it's either somebody who played against Pasadena City College at New Hampshire or Football Immortality's son who has bounced around a lot. Okay. Now, he has two sons. I could be wrong here. One played at LSU. I'm pretty sure Max Johnson is Brad Johnson's son. But
Max played at LSU and Texas A&M.
Thank you.
They might be.
Yep, I'm an elite football mind.
That's the guy.
But after that, it sounds like, like Bob Motzko, coach of the Golden Gophers hockey team, is here next week. This sounds like a 4-minute conversation with him.
Oh, boy.
Rhode Island at Minnesota. I mean, seriously, how are you going to slow the next Brock Faber to potentially win this game, Mr. Rhode Island coach? So that needs to be a win, right?
It is.
Okay. Nevada, Sans, Colin Kaepernick, and Nate Burleson. They're here September 14th. That should be a win, right?
Correct.
Okay, well, if they get by North Carolina, and you're looking at that FanDuel 5 and a hook, we're halfway home.
3-0 for Fleck though.
Yeah, 3-0 for Fleck though. 3-0 for Fleck though. 3-0 for Fleck though. Downturn for what? Iowa after that. Okay, yep, but it's here. We got 4 in a row at home.
And that's likely going to be a national television game, NBC, Football Night in America, with potentially 3-0 versus 3-0. You have the invalid signal gate. But that's a game where...
DeJean? Cooper DeJean?
Well, he's no longer there, but yes, the invalid...
Yeah, that's right.
But I'll tell you this about Iowa.
Right. That punt return bit.
Iowa's about as old as BYU is defensively.
Is what?
They're about as old as BYU is defensively. They got so many 6th and 7th year. They're incredibly talented.
Please explain that to me because I'm not rote on the BYU defense, but sure. I get the
required mission trip bit.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Jaron Hall, quarterback for the Vikings, Mormon.
Yep.
Tanner McKee, I believe is his name. Quarterback, backup for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
Mormon. So they're both like 25 to 27 years old in their first and second years because they went on 2-year missions.
Correct.
And their passes seem to find outer darkness. But anyway.
So obviously with BYU, you get to go on your mission a couple years, 2-3 years, and then you join the team. And so you're already 21 as a freshman. Well, with Iowa, because of the COVID year and some of the medical red shirts, I'm telling you, they're about 23, 24 years old on that back end. But
jeez.
And they got some NFL guys, especially at linebacker, like Nick Jackson, and then you got Sebastian Castro at that nickel spot. That's going to be a very tough team to be able to move the ball against. But as we saw last year, All you got to do sometimes with Iowa is if you get to 12 to 14 points,
No doubt.
even with a new offensive coordinator for that Hawkeye squad,
Yeah.
crazy things can happen.
Well, see, the reason I laid it out the way I did is beat North Carolina and your favorite, beat Rhode Island's hockey team, which they will.
They're 13th in the country in sailing, by the way, Rhode Island.
Always. And, well, then they can go play UC Davis in crew and be favored and however you bet that game. Nevada, they're going to win that one. The bottom line here is doing the PJ Flex show each and every Monday, 9 to noon, FM 100.3, KFAN. I really want him to be in a good mood up to that Iowa game.
You and me both.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because it's like, you know what it's like. You're around there more than me. Hey, October 5th, this seriously is cool. I mean, I think the conference realignment and everything's still weird. I mean, you know, getting those in Washington, Pullman, right? Mm-hmm. Getting those in Pullman fired up for a game against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I mean, that may take a minute, but USC is college football immortality. I mean, and USC is going to be at Huntington Bank Stadium. USC in the conference and playing them at home. What a visual that's going to be.
There's some fun home games to start this thing. Minnesota gets 5 of their first 6 at home. You get that North Carolina game on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. You get Iowa. You get USC. And
that's good.
And it should be before it gets awfully cold, especially at that outdoor stadium.
That's Miller Moss now, right?
It is Miller Moss.
Miller Moss. What's that?
The new Caleb Williams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of okay. Well, I guess you had the Beatles, and then the Monkees had to, like, open up or whatever. You know, is he really good, this Miller Moss?
I think betting against the Lincoln Riley quarterback would be a losing proposition if you ask me.
That's a very good point. UCLA, we get a trip to the Rose Bowl. Let me be the 900th person to probably make that joke. They still do play at the Rose Bowl, right?
It's been 62 years since the Gophers were there.
Have you been there?
I have not.
Arroyo Seco, right next to Pasadena. Oh, I'm going
to have to get some Pasadena recommendations from you.
Well, it changed a lot since I went to Pasadena City College for 5 years. Yeah, it's the foothills, the San Gabriel Valley foothills. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. You're right. But let's put it this way. If you think the Como Clomp at 8:15 in the morning to get into this place is bad, if you miss time Colorado Boulevard to make the right down the Arroyo Seco to get to the Rose Bowl, you'll miss the entire first half, Bo Hunter. So make sure you plan accordingly, assuming Gopher Illustrated is sending you.
Yeah, we'll be out there, but you and I are going to have to connect there that week before.
Oh, for sure. And you close the season November 29th at Wisconsin, at Camp Randall. What do them Badgers look like this year?
Well, the question for them, just like for so many teams on this schedule, is what does their quarterback look like?
Right.
Does Tyler Van Dyke, who was when he was at Miami as a freshman, won ACC.
That's Dick's grandson, right?
Always.
Was one of the best young quarterbacks in the ACC, and he's been incredibly inconsistent the last couple of years. There's a reason why he's no longer at Miami. But what do they look like without Braylon Allen? What do they look like with some of their other key players?
And is Braden Locke an option? Their other guy?
No, it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke.
It'll be Van Dyke.
They named him the starter, but that game's also going to be on Black Friday this year. Black Friday for the Axe, 11 a.m. CBS. All the eyes on you, because I think there's a NFL game at 3 that day. It might be the Chiefs.
Of course there is. A freaking game on every day. Of course there is. On every streaming service.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not one in Saigon or Beirut to create a new market where you can milk money for the Shield.
Oh, the Dubai Duel? That'd be awesome.
You're going to have to get that trademark. Yeah. That's going to happen sooner.
I can call the game with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. That's Bo Hunt and Bernsey. PJ Flex here in 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. We leave PJ Fleck for the PJ Flex show for Sky U Ma Nation. Some Gophers trivia for the bow hunters around the corner. You're listening to KFAN. now, Bo Hunter has covered the Golden Gophers for 14 years. Thus, we put together some trivia questions for Ryan Burns, Bo Hunt, and Burnsy from some point of the last decade and a half of Gophers football. And here we go. Here's number one. In 2015, who led the team in rushing? Rodney Smith, Shannon Brown, or Mitch Leidner?
Well, considering Shannon Brown's not a real player, I'm going to say Rodney Smith.
Brooks, thank you. Shannon Brooks. Couldn't read my writing.
Yep.
Shannon Brooks.
Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith. Shannon Brooks had 709 yards. Smith was only like 30 or 40 yards behind, so very good guess. The Nords?
Yeah.
In 2012, I'll stick with running backs. This running back had just one carry for 8 yards. Don't look at this.
I'm looking at you.
2 years later, he had 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns. Who is that running back?
That'd be David Cobb.
Ding, 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 ding.
Hell yeah. Give him another one.
For one.
Give him another one.
Yeah, no pressure with all these people looking at you.
Give him, okay, go ahead.
This quarterback, in his 3 years at the University of Minnesota, was a total of 4 of 11 passing for 37 yards, a TD, and a pick. Somehow, he found his way to the NFL. He was with the Jets, Dolphins, Ravens, and Cards.
That would be legend Chris Strevler.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm looking for the buzzer and or the. Okay. All right. 3-2. Let's go 2014. The Golden Gophers lost the Citrus Bowl 33-17 to whom?
Missouri.
Okay. Give me the week. Ding, ding.
Oh,
Ding, 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 ding.
Next.
From 2013 to 2015, this guy had 16 sacks, 2 picks, including a pick 6. He was a 4th-round draft pick. He's now with the Niners, but spent recent seasons with a Vikings rival and sadly started his career on the business end of a historic Super Bowl collapse after the 2016 season.
Oh, boy. I'm not going to get this one. I'm going to say Damian Wilson.
Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell
right.
was the correct answer.
Yeah.
All right, 2013. Who led the team in passing yards? 2013, who led the team in passing yards?
It wouldn't be Leidner. Maybe it is.
Leidner was second.
Leidner was second? Would it be Philip Nelson?
My man.
Mankato legend
Hey,
for you.
round of applause for him, all right?
Yeah.
Just nailed it.
That legendary status
what you got next,
soured
Nordo?
real quick. This guy transferred to the Gophers, struggled, transferred out of Minnesota the same year without ever throwing a pass. He ended up going back to his previous school and even changed positions at one point.
One of Dan Barrero's favorite players, Vic Viramontes.
Ding, 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 ding.
These are some deep cuts we're getting into right here.
His questions are fantastic. Here's another one for me. 2019, quarterback Tanner Morgan led the team with 3,253 passing yards. Where did he play high school football?
I think Ryle, Kentucky. Was it Ryle High School?
Ryan Heil High School. We give it to you,
Yeah,
Union, Kentucky.
This is the information that myself and like 3 people in the entire world know. It is the most useless information.
Look
All
at all
right,
these people taking notes right now.
They love it.
Who needs to know where Tanner Morgan went to high school?
Okay, last one for me. Who led the Gophers in receiving 2021? Who led the Gophers in receiving touchdowns? 2021, who led Skyuma in receiving
Lonnie Anderson
touchdowns?
And receiving touchdowns. I'll go Chris Ottman Bell.
On fire. You got any left, Nords?
I have one left for you. This guy had 7.5 sacks during 4 seasons with the Gophers. He was a 5th-round draft pick by the Vikings.
Esezi Otamiwu.
Ding, ding, ding.
Hey!
But that's technically an because
Yeah.
we know it's
Otomawa.
Otomawa.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call.
All right, my brother.
Appreciate
good luck
you
with
having
Gopher Illustrated, and thank you very much for helping. And we look forward to chatting with you 9 to noon during the course of the conference season. Okay.
I appreciate you.
Ryan Burns, ladies and gentlemen, Gopher Illustrated. Don't leave home without it. Sign up for it. He's salt of the earth. He's the genuine article. He's quality stock, and it's inexpensive. It's Gopher Illustrated, gopherillustrated.com. PJ Fleck's going to be here around the corner for the PJ Fleck Show. For Eric Nordquist and Max Fuller, I'm Paul Allen. Enjoy the fair, ladies and gentlemen. Skyuma State Fair. Skyuma.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.